A hush fell over the room.
Yes. The past one.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here today.
Morning.
Before we get started, I want to find out which board members I have online. I think I saw Kenneth Mason. Is that right? Kenneth, are you there? And Leonte?
Yep.
I'm here.
Good morning, Scott. Yes, Leonte is present.
All right, terrific.
I was on mute. Sorry, Scott. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Good
Kenneth.
morning.
All right,
I think Jason.
Jason Downey, are you there?
Yeah.
This is Jason. I'm here.
All right, thank you, Jason. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for being here today. Welcome to the State Board of Education meeting for Thursday, November 4th, 2021. We'll go ahead and call the Committee of the Whole to order. And I want to recognize some guests that we have with us today. We have, is it Brent Holcomb from Holcomb? Hello, Brent. Thank you very much for being here with McClendon Enterprises. Terrific. Tom Bundray?
Broadnex.
I'm sorry?
Broadnex.
All right, thank you very much for being here. He's with Toombs County Board of Education. We have Marissa Morris. All right, thank you very much, Marissa, also with Toombs County High School Principal. Thank you very much. Barry Weller. Hello, Barry, with Toombs County, as well as School Superintendent. Matthew White is here. Morning, Matthew. CEFGA as well as GAGTE. Richard Smith, all know Richard. Thank you, Richard, for being here. This is the First District RESA. Shanna Downs. Shanna, thank you very much for being here as well with West Georgia RESA. Carmen Roberts, Toombs County as well. We have a big representation from Toombs County. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
She's an area superintendent. Emily, is it Moore or Your?
Yonette. Sorry, I'm ready.
Okay. Impact with Public Affairs. Thank you very much for being here. Josh Stevens with Page. Thank you, Josh. Tom Kabila with Mercer University. Hello, Tom. We have Steve Rogers. Steve, thank you for being here. And it's with Saventus Task Force.
Charlotte's Task Force.
Got it. Thank you very much. Carol Alert. Albert. All right. And we have Zach, Deputy as well. Thank you, Zach, for being here with Music Man. Is that right? All right. Thank you. And then Jody Barrow, who we know well, with GSSA. Thank you all very much for being here today. We appreciate your participation in the meeting. And I'll see Dr. Barbara Wall here, who we all know is heading up the CTAE program for the Georgia Department of Education. And Dr. Dooley as well. Is Caitlin? I didn't see Caitlin back there. Thank you, Caitlin.
Did you mention West Georgia RESA? Shannon? Okay, I just didn't hear it. I'm sorry. Thanks.
Terrific. All right. And then we have a very, very special inspiration this morning, and I'm going to call this a leap of faith, and I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Scott Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know. I don't know if I should take that as leap of faith if you put me at the microphone or talking about the video and what just happened in the last few days. Thanks. Great to be with you. Great to see the room filling up again. And then I just applaud all of you for the children of Georgia. I had a great opportunity to have an experience this week. Some of you may have done this before. I know Lisa has because we've talked about it. In fact, she did it before I did, and we all acknowledge that, Lisa. But a few years ago. But so got a chance to be with the U.S. Army this summer on what they call their education tour. And this is for people that are involved, influencers in education. And it was my honor, along with my fellow board member Mike Long, to be with the Army in the on that tour this summer in Colorado at Fort Carson. Great experience. I'll tell you, folks, there's nothing more inspiring than to be with young men and women that are serving this country. And I just can't emphasize that enough. And the people ask, we got to crawl all over the latest equipment in the military. And they said, what were you more impressed with? I was more impressed with the young men and women that I met. They were amazing. I just can't say enough about them. And I love what one of the generals said that we got to spend time with. They said, when talking about all the things the Army do, they said, we don't man equipment. We equip soldiers. We equip men and women. And that's what I love. And that's what I was inspired by that experience. So included in that education tour generally is a chance to jump out of an airplane.
A perfectly good one?
A perfectly good airplane, yeah. And the caveat was, this was my experience in the summer was in Colorado, and they said, we don't let fools, rookies jump in the thin air in Colorado, but we'll make it up to you because we'll invite you back to do that. And so that happened this week on Tuesday. And I've got a little video that of the experience that I'll show you. And let me tell you, you'll see two landings. One because they call it the landing, but during this process, they said to me, they came after I landed and they said, Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry. We're sorry. But we got these brand new GoPros. It messed up, and we didn't catch your downfall because they have a
We have that on tape.
Well, a photographer jumps about 3 seconds before you do, and they catch you all the way down. So it's great. And they said, well, we didn't get it. I'm thinking, okay, well, I got to jump. Don't the video. I said, no. Would you like to jump again? So not only did I jump once on Tuesday, I jumped twice.
Oh, wow.
And which is perfect because the first thing I thought of when I hit the ground was, I want to do that again. And I got to get wish. So if you'll roll the tape or the jump drive.
Great day, November 2nd.
Volume.
So we get that audio.
And that was so eloquent too. And
You're supposed to be the voiceover.
What were you saying, Scott?
I was saying, this is the greatest.
Here he is.
And it's going to be glorious. It's a beautiful day in Florida, and these professionals from the U.S. Army.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Doing great.
Doing pretty good. Yeah, let's talk about you for a minute. I noticed you have a jumpsuit on. You have a harness. What are we doing today, sir?
We are jumping with the U.S. Army Golden Knights here in Florida. Exciting, one of the most exciting days of my life. This is wonderful. I'm pumped. I'm with this professional team here. We are going to jump out of an airplane, and it's going to be glorious. It's a beautiful day in Florida, and these professionals from the U.S. Army are doing a great job, and I want to thank every one of them.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for spending a good portion of your morning with us and sharing this experience. Now, is there anything that you want to say to your friends and family before we go to that plane?
Any last words?
I look forward to giving you a salute when I'm back on the ground. From now, I'm going to sign off until I see you back home in Georgia. I love my Georgia people, the folks, my fellow Georgia State Board of Education members. We're love the U.S. Army and love the education tour we did this summer. and this kind of caps it off.
Perfect, sir. All right, well, I guess that's that for here in the ground level. Next time you see this camera, it's going to be at that plane behind you. See you there.
All right.
Scott, we're passing through 4,700 feet on our way to 12,500. How you feel?
I'm ready to go. I'm all the way. Go Army, go USA. We're ready to do this 2.5 miles down with my buddy Keith here. And we're ready to go, Tom.
Sounds good. Well then, in that case, I'll see you outside. Have a good job.
Now I know what I'm made of. Looked in my soul, found a fire that was lost. I feel it burn to my core like a man's sun's. The universe thought it had me, but I won't. Look at me. I am free, flying so high. Me and the wind are one. Look at me. Like an eagle spreading his wings. I'm ready to fly. I'm ready to fly. I'm ready to fly, 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 fly. I'm ready to fly, 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 fly. I'm ready to fly, 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 fly. I'm ready to fly, 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 fly. I look ahead, all I see is the horizon, and a distant land that is ready to explore. I can see all this
12,500 feet all the way back on the ground. How you feeling?
I am feeling like $1,000,000. I love this experience. Thank you, Golden Knights. Thank you, U.S. Army. This is the best.
Thanks for jumping with us. Thanks for sharing the skies with us. Go Army. Blue skies.
My second leg.
Back on the ground. All right, let me get some of this. Scott is going to disconnect the top and lower connectors, and then I'll give you a hand so we can stand up and talk. Feel free to take those goggles off.
What's that wet spot on
You're rigged up. All right, I'll give you a hand, sir. Stand up. Now, how do you feel?
Oh, this is the most. That's great.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Leonte. If
Keith
you guys
is such
can
a
hear me, you
professional.
sound
The
extremely
top all the
muffled.
way down. He is a great dive.
All right.
And then just a perfect ride to spiral and land. And
All right. Did you have any favorite parts? What do you think?
hey, nothing crazier than jumping out that door. But the ride and remembering to smile for you.
Right.
Taking the video, but thank you,
All right, sir.
J-Lo. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate Keith. Golden Knights were the best. Go Army. It's one of the best experiences of
All
my
right,
life.
Scott. Well, thank you so much for, like I said, allowing us to conduct this jump with you. It was a great time having you up in the plane, on the skydive. What an honor. Thank you so much.
My honor.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
All right.
Nothing but blue skies. Again, the men and women that I worked with, the soldiers that were there on Tuesday, did the same professionalism that I had experienced in Colorado. And interestingly enough, so we had the conversation on the way, I'm flying up, and the Keith, the guy that's my instructor, said, that guy, who's got the great job, that guy that's flying the plane, he flies the plane. And he said, you can do that right out of high school.
That's right.
That's what a great country we have, and that's what a great military we have too, because they will take you, train you, and you know that guy is, after he gets out of the Army, he's gonna go fly for probably first for a commuter line, and then later for Delta or somebody, right? Because he's a professional Army pilot, and those are the opportunities that's what the education tour for the U.S. Army is all about. It exposing folks to the opportunities that are in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. And it's inspiring, and it's a great week. Thank you, Scott, for letting me share that today. And allowing me to share a little of the excitement that I experienced this week.
This is Scott Johnson, our great member from the 11th Congressional District. Thank you very much, Scott, for sharing that inspiration with us today.
Thank you.
That's very good.
Would you be so kind as to lead us in the pledge?
I will indeed. Join me in the pledge of the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go Army.
Right, before we get started, I want to recognize a couple of people here. I think we had Ms. Fenna Petty as well as Dr. Stan Jarnett with birthdays this past Sunday. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
Today is
And then we have Mike Long's birthday today as well. Mike, are you online with us today? And for those of you who don't know, he had the pleasure of jumping out of a perfectly good airplane with Scott Johnson. Fortunately, he wasn't the one who was on Scott's back. But we, I mean, that was amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. We also, I want to recognize Superintendent Woods. Superintendent Woods actually was nominated by Georgia FFA and then was recognized by the National Association with an honorary American FFA degree. Congratulations. Terrific. All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn this into the public hearing. We'll now move into public hearings. We have two rules to be addressed during the public hearing this morning. They include the State Board of Education Rule 160-4-2-.12, the Comprehensive Health and Physical Education Program Plan, and State Board of Education Rule 160-5-1-.15, awarding units of credit and acceptance of transfer credit and or grades. It's my understanding that we have not had anyone signed up for either one of these. So if that is the case, we'll go ahead and close the hearing without objection. Terrific. All right. Now we're going to go with Committee of the Whole. We'll begin building the Committee of the Whole agenda. As I call on each committee for a report, please indicate which items are recommended for consent agenda, and which items, if any, will move forward for a separate vote or other action. And we're going to turn to the Budget Committee first. And Jason, are you presenting or is Mike Royal presenting? Mike Royal?
Yeah, Jason's online, but he's there, so he asked me to present the Budget Committee this morning. Budget Committee would like to move for consideration of the action and consent items 1 through 13. All items on the Budget Committee for action and consent.
Thank you very much. We'll now turn to Rules Committee and Ms. Fenna Petty.
Okay, Rules Committee, items number 1 and number 2 will be pulled for a separate vote. Items 3 through 9 move to the consent agenda.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. On that, and my apologies to the Rules Committee on this. I'd asked for some information on on one of the action items and received that yesterday, and then was able to have some conversations afterwards on the Rule 160-5-3.02 contracted transportation services. And I'd like to pull that so that we can have some discussion. And again, my apologies to the committee for not being, I was in budget and not being able to be and have that conversation with you before. But I would like to have some discussion on that.
Okay, so that means that items 1, 2, and 6 will be pulled for a separate vote. Items 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9 will be on the consent agenda.
Yes.
Is that correct?
And
Okay.
also, we're gonna discuss, just have a conversation about the economics.
Yeah, number 4.
I'm number 4, remember?
That's under superintendent.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna do it in there, okay.
So we're keeping 4 on the consent agenda?
Yes.
All right, terrific. We'll move to district flexibility and charter school systems. I'll turn this to Dr. Stan DeJarna.
Committee recommends items 1 and 2 be added to the consent agenda.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I do not believe we have any state school committee items, is that correct? All right, items for information, that's easy. Ms. Kinnamore, we'll turn this over to you for appeals, minutes, and executive session.
I make a motion to recommendation to move the following to the consent agenda. The individual student waivers, minutes of the September 29th and 30th, 2021 State Board meeting, minutes of the September 29th, 2021 executive session meeting, the November 2021 personnel report, and the November 2021 legal report.
Thank you. Any questions, any comments? All right, we'll move those as described. At this time, we'll turn this over to the superintendent.
Okay, appreciate it. We have a couple presentations today, and I think, Dr. Wall, I'm gonna let you start off today, if you don't mind, with your group from Toombs County, and talk about some exciting new pathways down there.
Yes, we had the privilege a few months ago to go down to Toombs County to talk with them about a need that their industry has, and that is heavy equipment operation pathway. Mr. Donaldson was there with us, as well as Chief of Staff Matt Jones. But today, we've got our guests from Toombs County here with us. They're going to give you a little information about how this pathway came about. And we do have the courses up to ask you to approve those for adoption today. But Carmen is going to be doing the presentation, and along with Mr. Waller. I'll turn it over to them right now.
Thank you, Dr. Wall. Mr. Chairman, Superintendent Woods, State Board members, we want to thank you for this opportunity for us to be here to share our vision, if you will, of this new pathway, of piloting this pathway for the state of Georgia. Locally, we graduate kids every year, and we send those kids to four-year universities or technical schools, but we also have students that are ready to explore careers and workforce. And we looked at this as a need in our area, developing some partnerships with local industry and state industry with heavy equipment operations. We do have a partnership with McClendon Enterprises, which is a local civil engineering construction company, and one of those members here is with us today. Partners also with JCB, Caterpillar, John Deere, in developing this program, the standards for these courses. We're just excited about this opportunity for our students. And what it is preparing them to join the workforce in another avenue. So if we can open this door and be innovative and provide these other opportunities for kids, we just see that as a win for our community, and it could lead to something across the state. One other thing before I turn it over to our CTA Director, Ms. Roberts. With this, not only students in Toombs County can benefit for it, but we have a regional career academy that we have 3 other school districts involved, that those students under the charter of the career academy could also enroll in these courses too. So we're looking at 4 school districts in our area that students can be impacted with this pathway. So that's just kind of giving you a brief overview of it. I'm going to turn it over now to our Assistant Superintendent and CTA Director, Ms. Carmen Roberts.
Good morning. As if I wasn't nervous enough, I followed behind a dynamic speaker jumping out of an airplane. So that, forgive me if I'm not that entertaining, but I do appreciate you, as Mr. Waller said, considering our locally developed pathway. I know you guys are bombarded with requests continually, so just to be here today is a blessing. And if I pass out, at least you got that out of it. So we do appreciate it. As Mr. Waller has indicated, how is the heavy equipment operation, how did this come about in Toombs County? Of course, annually, we meet for our comprehensive local needs assessment, and throughout the year, our stakeholders are meeting, and we're continually assessing where we are in Toombs County with our pathways. Where are we? Are they relevant for the job market? We're a job market now, today's job market. Are our students interested in, and also can we support this pathway? Currently, Toombs County High School maintains 8 career clusters, 15 CTA pathways. Of course, you can look at 64.9% of our students complete a CTA pathway. This is above the state average. It's looking to be higher this year. Preliminary data, let's talk about that. This is the data that we collected locally starting last year. Currently 20%, and I don't know if other counties keep this kind of data, but I thought we're gonna keep it to kind of see what kind of match we have. 20% of our CTA pathway completers are looking their pathway, where their pathway is going to be a match to what they're pursuing in college or their job career, where they're looking to be employed. This was based on questionnaires. Tell me, where are you going to college? What are you majoring? Things like that. So this is, when I say preliminary, it's not anything official. And of course, we know we change majors in college. We don't go into the job. So all kind of things can happen. But just like I said, we kind of wanted to examine that data. So annually, again, we started this last year, and we'll do it again this year, and it's through surveys, student surveys, to kind of get an idea. Are we, again, that's another way to see, are we meeting the needs and interests of our students? Again, considering the labor market projections and also student interest, the heavy equipment operators, that was identified as a workforce need in our area. Of course, with the implementation of this pathway, students will have the opportunity to receive nationally recognized credential value from NESR and leave high school workforce ready. Here's our current reality in Toombs County for our pathways. The one in red, of course, is the first course of the heavy equipment operations pathway. This is the first course, is a state approved course. The students who enrolled in this course were told, you know, we're looking to possibly implement this, but we weren't going to leave them hanging, because that is the first course to other pathways that are approved with the Department of Education. The unique thing about, in my opinion, this pathway, and you can look at, of course, I am an educator, so you look at our TAP program, that's less people, but this particular program also, if you look at the transportation, distribution, logistics, that's our basic light maintenance repair. These are pathways that you into more intentionally thinking, because it's like, why basic ag is just fun, because you go to Perry Fair, you get to work the hog show. I mean, you know, there's lots of fun things to go in that, and you know, you may have no intention in that, but this particular pathway is more intentional on the student to enroll in this course, and you want it to be more intentional. Like I said, this is very serious, and these people are really looking for employment after high school. So again, this is a pathway that we feel students who enroll in this are going to be very serious about it. So that's a good thing. And anytime you consider a locally developed pathway, the first question you have to ask, and of course, if you've seen the information on this, in terms of equipment, is do we have the money, do we have the resources to support this pathway? Mr. Waller is always going to say, no, we don't have the money. But how can we stretch our CTA budget, and how do we leverage our resources within the community to make this happen? And this is where our industry partners come in. Without our industry partners, this pathway would not even get off the ground, because this is just a few that we have. Of course, you know, this involves heavy equipment, and of course we don't have excavators and backhoes sitting on the high school campus. So we have great support, and those are just a few of our industry partners. Our CTA department review was just, our 5-year review just occurred last month. Julie Kenny, I know most of you, of course, know her. She did our review, and she interviewed 3 other industry partners who are not listed up here, and she was just amazed at the support and the involvement of the industry partners we have. So these people do not give lip service. They live and breathe Toombs County, and they are, like I said, they're on board with this. I've got one that can talk this better than me right now. So this is how this pathway will happen with the assistance of our industry partners. Pathway effects. The pathway effects for our community are profound. Mr. Waller mentioned that we do have a partnership agreement with Southeastern Early College and Career Academy. So students from Toombs County, Vidalia City, Triplin, and Montgomery County, they're all eligible to take the courses in this pathway. We have students from all 4 campuses who are enrolled. The numbers I gave you for the pathways are Toombs County numbers, but other systems can be enrolled in this pathway. So it does have a regional effect. A Google search, that was just the other day, looking at state employability. I just literally Googled heavy equipment operators. If you Google equipment operators or whatever, you can get tens of thousands of search just for Georgia. So just a search of jobs. We knew there was a job availability, but really looking online and there's thousands of jobs available and so we do have a local, regional, and state need for this. Student impact, of course, with the induction of the heavy equipment operation pathway, we feel we will graduate students who are ready to be gainfully employed, and ultimately when our students graduate, whether they attend college, tech school, or enter the workforce, that is our goal. And we do believe with induction this pathway, it is with more intentional thinking on the students' part, and we do feel like we are graduating people who are ready to make a difference. And we do appreciate your consideration in this pathway.
On this, I've got a question
Oh,
for you.
sure.
On this pathway, this is right. My day job is insurance and risk management, and a lot of our clients deal with heavy equipment and construction. In your pathway, are you working with them to become DOT certified for driving? There is a huge need for drivers that have the DOT certification, and to drive this heavy equipment we've got a lot of equipment, but we're having a hard time getting equipment, trailers, heavy, all that from point A to point B. Is that part of the pathway?
Mike, can I defer that to because we've got other people working with me.
So anytime working with Toombs County, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here to support them, work with Toombs County, we try to follow models that may exist out there already of this. Kentucky is one of the only places that we found that has an existing model, and they have implemented that. This was just getting the ground rolling, but yes, eventually at that point in time, getting students a CDL prep course involved in the pathway is a hope. That is an opportunity for them to be able to do that, so that once they turn 18, get them over there to take the test. But that is a part of it. Have them trained so that they're starting off at a higher level than anybody else that would help with the insurance concerns or anything like that, especially with the trucking needs and driver's license. But to be able to operate, we want them to come out with NCCR credential, OSHA credential, and as close to a CDL license.
That CDL, that's a huge part of this. Awesome. This is very, very good. Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions? Beth?
I was so impressed when I attended the stakeholders meeting to see how many industry partners, and several of y'all are here today, so thank you for coming, are invested in this already. And I think that's crucial to the pathway development, is putting them with jobs. I think sometimes we get lost in some ways that we need to be preparing kids for jobs, preparing them for what's next. Sometimes I think that's lost in some ways, and it's not lost in Toombs County. So I'm just surprised y'all are gonna let Vidalia City participate. I mean, are you gonna let Garrett get in on your program, Barry?
They have certain dress code requirements. They have to have on before they can come to the high school.
Agreed. But thank y'all for coming.
I don't think they made it through security.
All right, Stan, you got just say, Jason, Kenneth, or Leonte, do you have any questions? Okay, I'm not hearing anything there, so, I got a question. Thing caught my ear, and it, was the Regional Career Academy. And, you know, that you have, I know that's a terrific model, and, from, I guess, are you doing that through an MOU between the regions? How do you allocate FTE? How do you allocate capital improvements? How does that work?
In the charter of the Career Academy that took place.
Can you come up?
Yeah.
In the charter of the Career Academy that took place before I got into the position I'm in with predecessors, it was put into the charter that all 4 school districts students from each district could attend a campus of another school district and take a class that may not be offered at their school. It goes through the Career Academy, so they are still students. For instance, if we have art that we're teaching at Toombs County High School and a student at Montgomery County, they don't have art, that student could come and attend the class at Toombs County High School and still receive credit through the Career Academy for that art class.
Okay. And then how about transportation? How is that handled?
Each school system provides their transportation to the Career Academy. The regional academy is located in Vidalia, which is pretty central to all 4 school districts. And they use school transportation to get there. We do allow, each school district does allow their drivers with parent waivers to be able to drive to the Career Academy and back to school.
That's a terrific model. Really appreciate it.
It's been very successful in our little area.
Right. Any other questions?
I've got a question.
It's a great example of cooperation regionally, so.
Yeah.
This is just something for forward thinking, with this first course. You know, as we move into another sequence of this course, what would we envision that to be?
Okay, good question. The first course of this pathway is under construction.
Yeah.
All right, so course 2 and course 3 had to be created, and we used the NCCR standards when creating these courses. So that, you know, we didn't want to go reinvent the wheel. So the courses were already out there through NCCR that we we brought those standards in for you guys to review. So the courses were already created there.
Okay.
Barry, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
everything. Great presentation. All right, and then we're gonna turn this over to Superintendent Woods, talk about the personal finance standards.
We got one other, sorry, I had one addition here. Mr. Steve Rogers, with Servants Task Force. Steve?
Yes.
Superintendent Woods, State Board members, guests, thank you for allowing me to be here today. I do not have a presentation. I'm actually walking into a cold room. I was prepared to speak to the board. I didn't know so many people were going to be here. To Mr. Johnson, thank you. As an Army and Air Force veteran, the first time I jumped out of an airplane, it was on a dare. Actually, my colonel had me raise blood drive, people to sign up for blood drive if a guy that was scared of heights would jump out of an airplane. So I did it for the cause. Servants Task Force is a nonprofit organization in Warner Robins, Georgia. Our commitment is to our veterans, our military members, first responders, and our children. I've had the great opportunity over the last few years to be a part of helping raise funds to help rebuild the Walk of Heroes over in Conyers, Georgia, through my great friend Tommy Clack, who was the CEO. I recently became associated with the Warrior to Citizens organization. Colonel Mike Roberts, who has this organization that provides counseling and support for combat vets, military members, and first responders to deal with high-stress situations that tears down the family unit. They do counseling and support sessions to help keep the family units together. If you've been in war and been shot at, you know it's very stressful. So they were going to be here today. Tommy is speaking at a Vietnam veteran's funeral up in Rome, and Colonel White is getting ready for this year's induction ceremony of the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame over in Columbus. So I'm here today to talk about honoring the past and promoting the future. It's a campaign that Service Task Force has just started, actually on Monday. I was introduced to the folks at Nine Line Apparel over in Savannah. We've created a series of shirts called our Military Dog shirts to energize the Georgia fan base. They represent all the military branches, whether it's JROTC units in Georgia. We have a dog face for the Army, Salty Dog for the Navy, Devil Dog for the Marines, and Dog Fighter for the Air Force. We also have a Patriot Dog shirt for those who do not serve in the military but support our military. In order to raise the money that we want to raise to create a scholarship fund for JROTC cadets in Georgia that will be attending Georgia colleges and then going into military service, we want to sell those shirts. I've also contacted all the sports teams, the Division I college teams in Georgia and the professional sports teams, semi-pro sports teams, to get them to donate door prize donations that we can sell tickets for so that we can raise as much money as we need to. Our first goal is $25,000. We will name the scholarship for Coach Vince Dooley, who was just inducted into the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame in April. Coach Dooley has helped us several times with events that we've done to honor our military. He, of course, served in the military. A lot of people don't know that, but he was a Marine. He is a Marine, and he actually did that while he was head coach at Georgia. So I developed a friendship with him and his family. They're great folks, and of course Georgia is my football team. I don't care who doesn't like that, but in speaking with these sports athletic directors around the state, I was made aware that Coach Dooley had a great effect on other colleges getting their football program started, and that his legacy and leadership over the state, there's no telling how many young kids that he has helped mold their minds and helped shape their futures. These cadets that are in your schools right now, in your high schools, they're going to be our next generation of leaders. These are the young men and women that will take over for us one day. They may take Dr. Woods' position, they may take your position. But having been in the military, I know that what they teach you in the military is important. Integrity, character, honesty, teamwork, patriotism. Those things, those words that mean a lot to us as older people. We understand from our generation what we need to pass on to the next generation. So on April the 2nd of next year, we're going to hold an event in Macon, Georgia at historic Luther Williams Field. And we're going to honor Coach Dooley at that day when we do our check presentation. We are also creating a theme song for the event that we will have recorded, and the proceeds from that song will go to the Warrior Citizen Organization to help them support the veterans and military members and first responders and their families that are dealing with the issues that they're dealing with. In the audience today, I have two guests, Big Mike and Carol Albert. Both of them are Grammy-nominated artists, Georgians, that have volunteered to help do the music and the songwriting for this song. Zach Deputy, who is a songwriter and artist who has performed for Lynn Wood and others in the South Carolina, Savannah area, has volunteered to offer his services. I've got several producers already looking to help us record the song and work with other Georgia artists. We're looking for a We Are the World, Playing for Change, God Bless the USA type song where we bring Georgians together, the artists, the singers, songwriters, everybody like that to contribute to it. And once we complete this event, we can use it as a template to go to other states, to have them do the same using their resources to help their students, their cadets, get to colleges and help them reach their highest dreams and achieve their highest goals. It starts here in Georgia. Georgia's my home, so I care for this place first. But I care about America, and I believe that we can be the foundational piece that sets the ball rolling so that others can follow our example to achieve this. I have contacted all the schools in the state, the JROTC commanders. I had over 127 out of the 270 schools that have JROTC programs email me back and tell me COVID last year decimated their accounts. They have no money to send their teams on competition drills or to repair uniforms or to do the things that they want to do with their students. I never realized how many students are actually in JROTC. Thousands. This campaign can help them raise money for their individual JROTC programs and help us create the Vince Dooley JROTC, Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame Scholarship Fund through the shirt sales, through the ticket sales. The fan bases in Georgia are outstanding. We are going to get tickets from the Atlanta Braves. I've already been in contact with their office. They just wanted to wait till after they won the World Series, which I like the way they said it. After we win the World Series, we'll be in touch with you. So we have Braves tickets. My best friend and I are donating our 2022 season tickets. God help me. That's how much we believe in our veterans and our cadets. We have Georgia Tech tickets. We have Georgia Southern tickets. We have Kennesaw State tickets. We have Georgia State tickets. We have Macon Bacon tickets. We have Macon Mayhem tickets. We're going to get Braves tickets. We're just waiting on a couple other teams and schools to get back with us, and we want to let them know what we are offering so that their fan bases, $2 for a ticket, $5 for 3 tickets is not a lot. You spend more than that for a Big Mac. And the money will go to creating the scholarship fund, which we will donate to the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame that already donates scholarships, and their committee will pick out through applications the cadets that are given these scholarship funds. Our job is to help raise the money, then we give it to the folks that will pick out and select the cadets that are looking to go to Georgia colleges. So technically it's an investment in ourselves because we're helping our students get to our colleges and then become our leaders. So I wrote this really good speech, and if anybody wants to read it, you can read it afterwards. The only thing I'm going to quote from it is there are millions, trust me, thousands, millions of quotes on what a hero is. And I found this one, and it was actually an educational teacher's guide. It said, "A true hero will do anything in his or her power to help others." That's what heroes are. They go out, you don't have to win a battle or save a child from a burning building. I was a cop for 16 years. Trust me, I've been in situations. But a person like my friends in the back and those that are working to help us put this project together, they are the heroes because they're willing to take the next step to help us help others, which is Servants Task Force motto, helping us help others. So when you go back to wherever it is you will go today, if you will help us, go to our website, which is servantstaskforce.org. You'll read a couple articles about the campaign, what we're doing, the history of what we've done in the past to help other organizations in the state and around the country. I've been involved with Tunnel to Towers, Blue Lives Matter, American Cancer Society, American Heart Society, Ronald McDonald House, Walk of Heroes. We love helping people, and especially our kids and our veterans. We honor our veterans, and we want to support our children. So please go to servantstaskforce.org And if you can help us promote this project, we certainly will send, Dr. Woods will send you an invitation, just like we did to the induction ceremony for the event in April. And we hope to present Coach Dooley and his family and the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame a large check that will then be used to help cadets get into college. At that time, I will take questions.
Anybody have questions for Steve?
Yes, ma'am.
I am affiliated with the Georgia Military Hall of Fame.
Yes, ma'am.
Colonel White and Colonel Longrear.
Yes.
And Colonel Roberts.
Yes, Colonel
With
Roberts.
a warrior
Yes.
citizen. So I can honestly say, as a military wife, daughter, and an active military son who is up at Fort Bragg right now, the things that you guys do for the military community is just astounding. There's a great need in the community for support, and I really appreciate it. And I will be at the Georgia Military Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Saturday in Columbus.
Yes, ma'am.
And everybody, if you have an opportunity, go out to the balcony area in this building as well as the plaza, and you will see all of the military information about our military veterans and the things that they have done, and those who have been inducted in the Georgia Military Hall of Fame. I think we are one of 2 states that have something like this, and people come from all over just to look at it. And it's Veteran Plaza downstairs, so thank you for what you're doing, and I will actually be on the phone with Colonel White tomorrow, as well as his son, Colonel White.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you for all that you do. I appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Steve. Any other questions for Steve?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the information on your website? Can we make donations through the website?
Yes, ma'am.
or send
Make
checks?
donations, buy shirts, buy tickets. And like I said, what I'm really trying to do, as well as do it through the website, is if any of the JRTC units at the schools, the 270 units in the state, it doesn't matter what branch they are, if they want to use it as a fundraiser to help them raise funds, to help them with their competition teams, their drill teams, their travel, there's so much money. I did not know how much money was actually involved in doing things. And I substitute taught at schools in Warner Robins, and it just broke my heart that art teachers and music teachers and stuff like that sometimes have to pay out of their own pocket for supplies that they need for their children, for middle school kids and stuff like that. So the schools that do not have JRTC programs, if one of their organizations wants to take it on as a project to help their school out, we're certainly willing to help them do whatever they can to help the kids be able to do what they need to do to show off their skills, to achieve their highest goals. So it's basically for the military and the cadets and everything like that. But Servants Task Force, we don't discriminate against anybody. Anybody that needs our help, anybody that wants our help, we are a think tank. God is good. He gives me ideas depending on what the need is, and then we put it together, we create it, we develop it, we see it through, and then we move on to the next event to help whoever needs our help after that.
That's great. I was CTA director in my community, and that is where the bulk of competitions all are, and it is very expensive, and I think just maybe in the general public, they just think the kids are getting on the bus and going somewhere for free. And it is a very expensive endeavor.
And what I'm hoping with Carol and Mike is they both can see and know talent, is if you saw Game 2 of the World Series, one of the military ladies did a fabulous rendition of the anthem, the national anthem. And if you watch Lee Greenwood's past revision of God Bless USA, he uses military folks, and there's a couple of singers from Georgia in his video. So if there's a way possible, I would like to get with the schools, and find out if they have someone in the JRTC unit that sings or anything like that, and if we could find somebody that at our event would want to help sing. I've got Betty Cantrell, who's from Miss America. I've got her on the hook to come and perform when the new Miss Georgia's crowned in February. We've already spoken to them about having the winner come and do something at the event. we've got a lot of people volunteering to help put this thing together. We would just need the support and the help with getting the information out to the communities so that they can help us generate interest in this. And with 8 million folks in this state, 10 million folks in this state, the 4th largest state with veteran population, we could, there's no telling how much money we could raise. Anybody else?
Steve, thank you very much. You're doing
Thank
some
y'all. God
you're
bless.
doing some remarkable work. We really appreciate it.
Then our last presentation will be on the new economic standards. So, Mr. Jones, we'll turn that over to you.
This will be very quick, so. So just wanted to give you an update on our economics course for the state of Georgia. So this came up last month at the board meeting. The superintendent really initiated a discussion around really what I think we've all heard, and he especially has heard as he's been out there talking with parents and business leaders and other policymakers, is just a real need for students to have personal finance and financial literacy skills. We thought the best way to go about that, and the board gave us some direction on that, was looking at our existing economics course and really redesigning that course to have even greater emphasis on personal finance and financial literacy skills. That course is a graduation requirement, so we know every student that graduates from a Georgia high school takes that semester course. So we pulled together a review team. The board made recommendations, the superintendent as well. You can kind of see the logos on the right, just a snapshot of who was represented on that team. We, of course, had economics teachers, so we had classroom teachers to kind of understand how this would hit the classroom. We also had a lot of business and industry leaders there. We had other state agencies like the Georgia Student Finance Authority was there as well. So we had a great group, and that's also part of the board item of who served on that review group. They came together to put together the proposal which y'all are considering today, which is a redesigned course for our current economics course. If you go to the next slide, please. And what does this new course look like? So the old course had about 26%. I would say that was probably a very broad definition of personal finance. That's the current course. The new course has a majority of the standards and elements deal with personal finance. We added a lot of different personal finance skills and concepts, tax forms, how to understand your pay stub, managing budgets, saving, investing money, credit scores, how to build credit. You see the full list there. And we attached a resource document onto the board item to really detail out all the different personal finance and financial literacy pieces that were added to the course. And with that, we really felt like the course needed a slight name change. Since it's now a majority personal finance course, we thought we needed to lead with that. So we're calling this course a personal finance and economics course. There's still those key economics principles in there, but the emphasis is the personal finance piece. And how do we use economics in our day-to-day life. So where we are today, we're posting this for a 30-day public comment. We hope to bring this back in December for adoption if that public comment piece goes well. And then we hope to implement this next school year. We know this is a semester course, so the next semester is right around the corner. So we want to give teachers a little bit of time to adjust. The Council for Economic Education, they've already committed to do professional development for us and resource development, so we can make sure this is successful in the next school year. And that's it for our update. 2 slides. It can be done. Any questions? I know I forgot to mention Ms. Rice served on that review group, and Mr. Donaldson as well. So they joined us that day as we met, looked at this course, and redesigned this course. So I don't know if y'all have any additional comments you would like to share about the work that was done that day.
Any questions?
You go ahead first.
It'll probably be the only time that I have more questions than Helen was that day. It was of my service on this board, it was probably I would say the funnest day, because this is.
I don't know if I would describe it that way, Matt.
It was for me. you know, I thoroughly enjoyed it because this is something that we need. And just like preparing kids for work, everybody needs this.
Absolutely.
Everybody, doesn't matter what you're doing. And I've seen it in banking for years, so it's a great start. I think personal finance should be a course of its own, but this is a good start to get us where we need to go.
Well, I think somebody made the statement yesterday that requesting information or asking questions is not a bad thing.
That's right.
That's right. And I guess that's the teacher part in me. You're a banker and I'm a teacher, so I ask questions so I can learn a little bit more. But I thought, you know, when it first came out, Matt, the Georgia Council of Economics brought that course to us, and you know, it's half a credit. And as Matt said, everybody was saying, let's have a personal finance. And so at the meeting when we were trying to do one and either economics and do a personal finance course, that just didn't seem to meet the need at that point. So I think what I saw, and Matt, we saw was a lot of collaboration, a lot of teachers and all these other groups, business groups that came together and said, how do we take what we have in economics and add personal finance to some of those pieces there to make it more realistic and make it work better for our students? And that's why Matt was, because he was going, yes, they're gonna learn how to do these banking things. Yes, they're gonna learn this, and oh yes, this takes. So I thought that was the great thing, that you didn't get rid of economics, you just made it more realistic to what the personal finance part of that could be, and it blended it together, and as you said, it's a great start to a course like this. So I had a great time once I found it in the rain.
Some people thought we were updating our geography courses. That wasn't the case.
It wasn't a easy place to find.
No.
But I think the thing that really struck me is the consensus. We had the educators who, again, this is their bread and butter each and every day in our classrooms. We had business and industry there as well, and everybody had that agreement about, one, the need, and two, they felt like this course being presented to you is very doable and practical, and they feel like kids are even going to be more engaged because they can kind of see the real life connections this is going to have in their own lives and the decisions they're going to have to make as soon as they leave our high schools. So.
Well, I remember Martha said something about she didn't want to get rid of this economics course because it had the real meat and potatoes in it that kids needed to go out in the real world and understand economics in that area. But I think when you probably looked at it and reviewed it, you saw the blend in there.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I think that this is a good start. You know, I've always been in favor of more of this rather than less, but that's all right. This is a good start. And I do think that, you know, understanding our economic system and how to manage yourself within it is key importance. And I shared the story of, you know, one of our honor graduates from one of our high schools goes on to the University of Georgia and is a finance major, and in his third year of finance, he takes this elective called personal finance. And I was having dinner with him and a number of other college students, and they were like, wow, Ms. Zoller, this is like the best course we've ever taken, a third year finance student. And this is when they're getting it. That can't happen. So this is a good start. And, you know, I think it's a good mix.
Thank you.
I have
one more question. Sorry, Lisa.
just a comment. I'm grateful that we were able to recommend people to be on that committee. This is important. Our kids need to understand how personal finance really will affect their lives and their future. So I'm grateful that all of this went forth, and thank our board members for being a part of that, as well as the people that we nominated.
It was a group of what, 20 people?
Yeah, about 20 people.
And I think everyone had something positive, something to add to the conversation. So everyone that y'all appointed was great.
And all 20 found the place too. So
Yeah.
Started off at a good spot.
Great balancing act. Way to go.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you. Anything else?
Okay, well, just one personal point of privilege. Again, it was an honor to be at the FFA National Convention. I don't know if you've ever been, but last year it was virtual. This year, 55,000 young people throughout the state, in which I wanted to say thank you again to Dr. Wall, Billy Hughes, Ben Lastly, and the whole FFA team. Georgia was represented very, very well. We actually, The retiring president of the National FFA comes from Georgia, a very sharp young man. We had I think a new vice president that's being installed. So with that, and for all the competitions that were going on, Georgia was always in the running or we were winning. So, you know, we can be very pleased of the FFA program. And I tell everyone, if you've not had the privilege of going to our state convention, if you want to be encouraged and have some hope for the future, that is run entirely by our young people. And it is a first-class convention, as with everything that comes out of our student organizations, but definitely FFA, cornerstone program, but something that is, like I said, it's quite impressive. And for us in Georgia, we have a tremendous program, and want to thank our teachers and leaders because I think for myself, being a former coach, if you want to see devotion, as coaches put in that, these advisors, I mean, they put time in, and it's a 365-day occupation, and they love it. They love their kids, and because of that, we are greatly served. So again, that's it. All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, I have some very, very short comments, and first of all, kudos to the Atlanta Braves and the World Series win. Seasons are, essentially built by wins and losses, and we had a very tragic loss among our board with the passing recently of Dr. David Butch, who we know him affectionately as Butch, Dr. David Butch Mosley, and had a chance to attend his funeral services. Ms. Petty was there, Mr. Downey was there, and just the tributes that came were just, they were stunning. People came from all across the state. He impacted hundreds of superintendents. He impacted thousands of students and really, really left an indelible mark and an incredible impression upon education in the state of Georgia. One of the individuals telling a story said that he may have only had size 9 shoes, but they were impossible to fill. But there are wins, and one of the wins that we have out of this is Superintendent Woods in the Georgia Department of Education has named the Office of Rural Education and Innovation after Dr. David Butch Mosley. Deservedly so. You want to talk about that office?
Well, again, of course, this is something new. Dr. Reagan Martin, who is up here, is leading that. Really just an all-star team, putting some emphasis on rural education and what's going on. So I'm excited. Again, for those who knew, all of us knew Dr. Mosley. I got to know him when he was interim superintendent down in Daugherty County. But his outreach goes from coast to coast, up and down, all throughout Georgia. An individual that I think 40 or 40-something plus years of education involved in some way. He loved what he did, to say the least. And an individual that, in many ways came and put out fires wherever he went and elevated every school system that he was at and brought them up. And I think for someone that has really invested his time in the rural part of Georgia, it was only fitting. I know his family continues that legacy, and we're excited to see what comes out of this. And so, I said Dr. Martin will be a fantastic leader, but definitely the family was very touched by this presentation, and his legacy will continue, so we're very pleased.
Superintendent Woods was also president of the services, and one of the stories we also heard about Butch was his desire to shop, and he shopped everywhere he went as often as he could. And there was a story told that about when he was at a conference up in the Northeast, and it happened to be not too far from a 24/7 LL Bean outlet is. And around midnight, one of the attendees at the conference gets a knock on the door, and Butch is at the door. And the guy says, well, what are you doing? He says, put your clothes on, we're going shopping. So, and then they proceeded to go shopping, and then when Butch found out that they do free shipping, he actually went back and shopped for another hour so he can get more stuff. They spent about 3 or 4 hours at the L.L. Bean store after midnight. So anyway, thank you very much for this recognition for him, and Butch will be sadly missed by everybody we know. All right. Well, this completes the committee of the whole, and so unless there's any other business to come before the board, we're gonna recess for about 10 minutes while the agenda's prepared. And I tell you what, let's just meet back here at 10:30. We're recessed. It's gonna be in the 38. All right, welcome back, everybody. Board members, you have got the agenda, and then Tiffany, make sure that the board. Thank you. Would you let me know when those are sent? Everybody, if you would, take a look over the agenda.
Chairman, I do just want to point out, because, you know, we did pull the 160-5-3.02. There was another rule that was in there that's a companion rule to it, that the part of what I want to address, I think, isn't affected by the one that was on the consent, the 160-5-3, because that one puts parameter, I mean, we'll speak to that, and when I'm talking about it, I'm going to refer back to it, but that doesn't address the issue that I'm gonna address in the other one. I don't see a need to pull both of them, even though they're both concerning that rule, but. Yeah, there were two rules regarding the transportation, but one of them is definitions. In some policy.
All right, so at this point in time, the chair will call for a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
I have a first from Mr. Donaldson. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Petty. Is there any questions or comments concerning the agenda? Mr. Downey, Mr. Benton, Mr. Mason, do you have any questions concerning the agenda?
Not from Leonte, thank you.
All right, hearing no questions, we'll call for a vote on the approval of the agenda. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Right, any opposed? Hearing none. And then Julie, are you noting who's in the room as far as vote is concerned? Perfect, thank you very much. All right, first item then is for the approval of the, for the approval of the consent agenda. The consent items rather. So at this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a first from Mr. Donaldson. I'm sorry, first from Mr. Dr. DeJarnett, and then a second from Ms. Kinnamore. Are there any questions or comments, concerns concerning the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And then we will move to executive committee items. I'll take a recommendation and a motion from Ms. Kinnamore.
Sorry.
Actually, those were all moved.
They were all moved.
Yeah,
They were all moved to the consent agenda. I apologize.
They're already on there.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We'll move to the rules committee items. And first of all, we'll move to agenda item number 1 for Rules Committee. This is a State Board Rule 160-4-2-.12, the Comprehensive Health and Physical Education Adoption. Right, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I have a first from Mr. Donaldson. Is there a second? I have a second from Ms. Zoller. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns regarding Rules Committee item number 1? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those on the line?
Aye. Aye. Aye, Jason.
All right, terrific. Are there any opposed? Okay, hearing no opposition, this is unanimously approved. Move to Rules Committee item number 2, PFEA, State Board Rule 160-5-1-.15, awarding units of credit and acceptance of transfer credit and/or grades, and this is for the adoption. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Mr. Donaldson. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ms. Kinnamore. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving Rules Committee items number 2 as stated, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. And then our last and final item on the Rules Committee items are Rules Committee item number 3, FBO-State Board Rule 160-5-3-.02, Contracted Transportation Services, and this is for the initiation of the rule. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Mr. Donaldson. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Dr. DeJarnett. Any comments, questions, or concerns, Mr. Royal?
Yes. And again, to the Rules Committee, I apologize. I requested some information on this and was finally able to get it. And then yesterday, y'all were already meeting. We were meeting concurrently in that. But on this rule, the question that I have are really concern and input that I have on 160-5-3.02 goes to in the requirements section 2C. And it sounds good, but I wanted to give some background to this and also some insight that I have with, again, my day job. C says such transportation shall not be authorized to be provided by a rideshare network service or transportation referral service. And I totally 1000% agree that Uber and Lyft and unknown transportation service should not, for multi reasons. Had a great conversation with Mr. Schofield yesterday, Pat, yesterday on this, and Matt. And the challenge is and it refers to code section as defined in code section 40-1-190. And the challenge in that is that code section so broadly defines rideshare. It's almost, and I was just trying to think of a good analogy, it's so broad, it's like saying that a pawn shop and a bank are the same thing. Well, they both lend money based on collateral. Well, no, there's very big differences between a bank and a pawn shop, but.
You're on the roll. Take a second. So, somebody online is, we can hear your keyboard. Could you please mute?
So, and that's the challenge on this, because there are some professional organizations now that are specifically specializing in pupil transportation that our code considers rideshare, and that are providing transportation services in other states. They're being utilized. They're contracting with districts. I think our department and folks did a really good job, and I referenced the one part on the rules that we don't need to pull, because the rules and such are being set to where the quote-unquote rideshare would have to contract with the district, with the LEA, Uber and Lyft and that aren't going to do it. They have to have drug testing, they get MVR checked, the vehicles are checked, the vehicles are checked by the LEAs. There's a lot of guardrails up that a typical quote-unquote rideshare, as we know it, Uber or Lyft, can't nor would they even go to. But what this does do is allows, if the rideshare is not in there, or is available, it allows those professional organizations that are specializing in pupil transportation the opportunity to participate in this potentially if the LEA wants to contract with them, because I believe that's a key consideration in this as well. But furthermore, I think one of the main reasons why I think we need to either pull this and look at it or amend this as it moves forward is this item was specifically debated in the law that was passed. The Senate version that came through had this wording in it. It was, and went to the House, it was taken out, conference committee then passed it, and then it was passed by the House and Senate without this wording, and then was signed by the governor on that. So the issue of rideshare was debated, was put totally on the table, and I think we as the state board should pass this, or at minimum post it the way it came to us from across the street and with the legislative intent that was potentially there. Now, so that's where I am with this, and on talking with this. So in effect, if we have this in our rule, we've gone over and above what the legislature chose not to do. And there is the argument, well, the legislature punted to us and said, y'all make the rule. Well, that's true, and we can, and I think there is adequate room for debate on whether rideshare should be included in this or not. However, in this true form of rideshare, Uber and Lyft, I wouldn't vote for it. If I thought that kids could be picked up by Uber and Lyft just standing on a corner with a random stranger that's got a star rating of 4.2, no, that's not, to me, I wouldn't vote for that. But with the guidelines that are put in, with the rules, there's going to be other policy coming down the line, guidance from our staff. I've looked at it. Some of it's pretty strict, and I think some of it even needs to be addressed a little bit. But we're going to have guidance on that. So that's really where I'm not sure what would be the best thing to do, whether to pull it and have that and repost it, or we can amend it, post it, have our public comment, and if it turns out we need to have that in there, we can add it back. So that's my thoughts on it, Mr. Chairman.
So specifically, again, which reference language?
Under the rule, under 2 requirements, amending or removing section C. Such transportation shall not be authorized to be provided by a rideshare network or service or transportation as defined in 40-1-190.
Okay, and then is there any timing component that we need to be aware of with regard to this adoption?
Well, again, it is law, so what we're looking at. The question, again, what you look at that I had concerns with, this was really a Title 40, not Title 20 issue. And I expressed that to the legislature. Because first coming on, I know Gwinnett County had, discussions on this, and a lot of this was, and I said, I don't have a problem, but it's not Title 20, it's Title 40. When you look at that, and of course, I know there are regulations as far as the structure of the vehicle. So there are things that you have to look at that. That comes into play. I don't know with these other companies how that falls into being there. So there are some, vehicle structural guidance that we have to follow, that anyone would have to follow with that. Again, if you're looking at doing this, I think this would probably be making a policy or board rule, because you are amending something, above and beyond of what's in current law. We would have to look and make sure it does not come in violation of Title 40. So that's really the big issue we deal with there.
And so I'll speak for a moment that this is a good law, and the legislature certainly spoken on it. And I haven't done the research, but I'm told that Georgia is like the last state in the union to have a law that provided for this alternative transportation. And so I think it's good. And I think the rule is good. What we have is, as Mr. Royal said in Georgia, is a very broad definition of rideshare service. And that is a problem in this sense that, as you say, what is working well in other states would be aced out of participating in this case because of Georgia's broad rideshare law. And I'm in agreement. We don't need to micro add something that the legislature obviously considered and removed.
So we're at we'll call it the initiation stage. All right. So really, you're looking for approval and implementation. Right. Okay. And if we were to modify something, we're looking at a 30-day posting requirement.
That would be correct.
And a hearing period.
Because you are making a rule. But that being said, I think we have to make sure that we're not in violation of state law. The state law will trump, you know, anything as far as a policy. Again, the big question is that it comes from Title 40.
Sorry, it comes from where? I'm sorry.
Title 40,
Got it.
transportation.
So there's a reference in here,
Forty
basically.
one
Yeah.
190.
And that's it. And when you go back, and I think there's some other, again, our staff's done a very good job in this. And I know in legislative, this is something I've kind of followed in my day job because I deal a lot with transportation. And the rule, and to our fellow board members, I mean, because the last thing we want to do is put kids in a dangerous situation. In this rule, in case you haven't seen it, it specifies that it can only be between a 5 and an 8 passenger vehicle. And I think that's very appropriate. We don't want them in a Mazda Miata. No, again, they're fun cars, but they're small. So it has to be at least a 5 passenger vehicle and at maximum 8 passenger vehicle. So, and it's 8 by the placard. So you can't take a 15 passenger van, take the back 2 rows out and say, no, we're down to 8. So there are some very good guidelines in here in this that I agree with from a risk management and liability standpoint on there. But the thing is, and Superintendent Woods, you mentioned Gwinnett. I think I'm accurate in saying the vendor that they were looking at to utilize, that if we pass this rule the way we have it, they can't. That vendor will not qualify for it, and they're doing it in other areas around the country successfully.
Yeah, and there are other states that use, and of course, that's been ongoing, and again, I've never had a concern about it, it's just that it's a Title 20 issue. And those are guidelines that are very specific about what a bus and what transportation looks like.
And that's why the one we didn't pull gets into those definitions.
That's the rule.
Yeah, and then that's the rule, and it defines 8 passenger vehicles. It says the driver has to have a physical. There's a lot of the rules that are in for bus drivers will be applied to these drivers. So what you're doing is you're taking it and taking the others out of the picture. They're not gonna be able to fly because of the physicals, the background checks, the MVR checks, the vehicle checks. They still have to go through all the same things that a bus would to a certain level. I mean, we've talked about some other things. It's not a bus, it's not a large vehicle, so there's a few of the things from a DOT standpoint that these won't have to do.
Mr. Chairman, rather than maybe amending this on the fly, which I think probably we can all agree, we're not experts, some of us are more than others. I would propose we pull this from our agenda today and reconsider, make sure that we're in compliance with the law and with the intent of the legislation. And
Scott, while you're sitting here, one of the things I've been doing is I've been looking up the Georgia code items, and specifically that section, it refers to 40-1-190, section 40 versus section 20 items. And that section 40 items that I just cited, it's really definitions. It's defining what rideshare is, and it's defining what they call it the transportation referral service providers. I think before we move forward with this, I think it would be prudent for the board members to look into this in greater detail.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And then from a timing standpoint, let's say that everything remains. I'm just looking at both sides of this. If everything remains, and so we can be in compliance, we might do a special called meeting to move it forward. If it's not, if we're gonna pull it, all right, then we're gonna have to obviously take another look at this and then figure out what that language is going to be, and then have another 30-day posting before it'll actually be codified. Does that make sense?
Makes complete sense. And I asked that question, Mr. Schofield, we had that discussion yesterday. There are some, this will allow districts to do some good things even as it is, even if the rideshare were in there. For instance, our state schools, instead of having to send a large bus to Academy for the Blind every day, they could get an 8-passenger SUV and use that, be much more economical and nimble and some different things. But there are some districts that have asked some questions on whether, but they're looking at ordering some of these vehicles for this, but they're 6 months out at least on ordering it. So
I mean, I appreciate the idea that I think we're trying to get ahead of, not we, but schools, everybody. We've got these things that are rapidly changing as far as transportation goes, and I think we're accelerated because of COVID. I would think that's fair to say. Shortages of bus drivers, different ways kids got to school, different numbers of kids going, a whole plethora of things. I think that we need to make sure that while we don't want to be on the back end of this, making regulations or rules when things have already happened, we need to make sure we've got everything. And I would be in favor of pulling it, taking a look at it, even if it means a special session meeting in a couple of weeks, or even waiting, because our meeting is fairly early in December, so it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be that much to wait till then either.
Go to Matt first and then Stan.
Two things. I just want to make sure that we comply with the law as was passed and was given to us.
The intent.
And, the legislative intent. Also for me, I want to make sure that we in no way condone using Uber or Lyft to transport the kids of Georgia.
Nope.
In no way. In no way, shape, or form. I don't care if they do have a passenger Uber X. They do not need to be transporting kids in Georgia.
No.
I wouldn't vote for that either.
No Uber or Lyft.
So we need,
Only people
we
that
need
are
some
already
verbiage
contracted doing this kind of work.
that excludes them.
Well, it basically does in the rules that are set forth, because Uber, the biggest caveat in all of this is the service has to be contracted with the LEA. So the LEA will go through a contract process with the provider. Like I say, there's a couple out there that are doing it. So the LEA has to contract with the provider to do that. So that really knocks out your Uber and Lyft there. And then the drivers have, like you say, have to have the MVRs, the checks. The vehicle has to be an approved vehicle. It has to be checked. In all reality, it doesn't. So I think we're maybe talking.
So your is the transportation referral service. That's the portion.
Yes.
So you would be okay with rideshare network service remaining?
I'm sorry.
Well, it's a little deep, it's a little deeper than that.
It's deeper because it refers to code section, and I've been told that the legislature may even dive back into 40-1 or into 40-1-90C and further codify and define that, because this is, as Martha said, this is evolving and it's going to change. So,
Stan?
Well, I was this close to understanding why we're doing this. But it sounds to me like we're in agreement on the verbiage, but not in agreement on, there's some problem with the terms that are defined in code section 40 code section.
Yeah.
So if that gets cleared up, it won't be done here.
Right.
And we'll be right back here looking at probably the very same language that we're looking at right now. Because I don't think that will change unless the definitions change over in the 40 section of the code section, Title 40. I mean, if we're gonna be here, if we're gonna come back and pass the same language right now, we don't have any control over the definition of terms in the Title 40 section. So why don't we go ahead and approve this, if that's what we're gonna end up doing anyway?
Well, so the definition of rideshare, yes, is broad. But by saying no rideshare companies can participate, it removes the LEAs from contracting with qualified, as I see it, from qualified vendors, if we want to call it that are vetted properly within the rule.
I get that.
Is that right?
I get that. I just feel like we're gonna be right back here again.
Well, I respectfully disagree on this point, and here's why. Because the rules that have been set forth in guidelines prohibit an Uber or Lyft from doing. So what our staff, I think rightfully has done, has tightened up. If we said ride shares can, but it's tightened it up just almost like regulations in banking to keep the pawn shops from being able to do banking, because if Uber wanted to, they could start Uber pupil transportation. But if they do, they're gonna have to take their
They're gonna have to meet the
they're
definition.
gonna have to meet the definitions, the guidelines.
But again, we're not controlling the definition. And look, it's not, if we're gonna have to call a board meeting to pass this one rule after we've done some research, I can live with that. It just seems like we're gonna be right back where we started.
Well, does the law specifically refer us to section 40?
Or Mr. Schofield?
No, it was not for that.
So we're doing that on our,
The verbiage that was put in that came out of the original bill. That was what came out of the Senate, I believe, first. I can't. There was a bill in both houses. There was a bill in the House and the Senate. They were coming through. They were both crossing over. The one that was settled on eliminated that language. It was our understanding from the sponsors that they would prefer that language to be in our rules to restrict that type of transportation. That's the reason it was put in. We had some other safety concerns as well, but that was the reason we had placed it in our rule.
so I echo what Stan said here with regard to the rules. If any change is gonna take place, it won't happen until next year, if anything. So, we're like stuck with the rule. Is there anything that prohibits us from writing something more restrictive?
Again,
So when we went through this process with the legislature, the anticipation is that the state board would essentially set the rules and guidelines and parameters around this particular area. So as stated, they wanted us to include the rideshare information in there. So I think for the work they were doing to be safe, they circle back to the language that was outlined already in law in Title 20 for this definition.
Well, if that was the case, why was it taken out of the language that was passed? Because they couldn't get the votes to do it.
Well, for politics, that happens all the time.
I know.
Believe
me, I know.
I
guess
you can.
Yeah.
They're
a
higher authority.
And the
Yeah.
state to
They are higher
details, you write rules all the time that provide clarity on what happened in the law.
So it sounds like, if I may, sorry, it sounds like there's a specific vendor or something that a school system is trying to use that this section will not allow. So can we,
Under the terms.
yeah, so can we get some specifics of what this vendor is and try to make them, try to understand why this verbiage doesn't,
I forget,
why it excludes them?
I forget the name of the specific one that Gwinnett was trying to use. There's some others that are in Florida, and then there's some that are operating in Colorado. They're doing it in many, this is being done in many states right now. And then whose law does, they, again, like say, put in the crossing 20 and 40 into that. So I think as far as policy and what we're doing, we need to protect students and say that no erroneous rideshare or an Uber or a Lyft should be able to do that. But no, I guess to your direct question, addressing a vendor, I don't remember who it is. Actually, we discussed one yesterday, and it was the one that Gwinnett was trying to use. And if we do that, they can't use them.
I think one of the challenges with the definition, and this is, like I said, out of our hands, right, as far as these definitions go, was that it sort of singled out anybody that uses an app.
Yep.
Which, yeah, that gets rid of Uber and Lyft, but it also gets rid of any of these
Yeah,
other
any of the other ones.
organizations that are out of there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a legislative issue or if it's a state board issue, quite frankly. I really need to know more before I can vote on this rule, to adopt this rule, so.
Exactly.
It seems like there's a pretty solid agreement to pull this for now.
I think this is the most prudent thing to do.
So if without objection, we did have a first, we did have a second, so let's, if I could actually have a motion to postpone this item.
So moved, postpone.
Second.
Okay, great. Any comments or questions regarding that? Okay, we will postpone this item and revisit it at a future date to be determined. All right. That concludes the action items for our business today. Is there any other business before the board that we need to bring up or discuss?
I just wanted to make a comment that, the dyslexia group there'll be a letter coming out soon. Tentative date is 11/22. Anyone who would like to attend or if you've gotten any emails or anything from parents or whatever, you can send them to Helen, me, or to Dr. Taylor, so we can kind of put this all together in one platform to be looked at.
Well, just, I mentioned this yesterday in our committee meeting, but in December, we'll have the State Charter Schools Commission will come to give their annual report to the board, and I think they'll be joined by the Charter Advisory Committee as well. I mean, they'll be in here. I know there's been some interest in a closer relationship with those groups, and we've certainly chatted with them, worked with staff, and they'll be joining us.
I've got a question too. Matt, on the names that we all sent in for the ELA, what kind of response did you get from the different districts? I think they were due on November 1st.
You mean
The names for the
the
ELA.
language, or the English, I guess,
Yeah,
is the
right.
whole term.
Yeah.
We'll still
I
take
submitted
those.
several.
We'll have a map, we have a very early map done where we were trying to track where different recommendations were coming from, so that's good coverage for the state. The superintendent just recommended his list, and then we're waiting on the governor to recommend his. So as soon as that's done, we'll send you all a finalized map, so you can kind of see the coverage. And if there's some missing pieces, y'all can help us fill those in, so we have good coverage.
That sounds great.
So is the list from the superintendent and the governor, is that the, what's the first meeting
The
called?
teachers working group.
The what?
The teacher groups, the
No.
teacher teams.
No, the first group, the parent
Citizens
advice, the
review?
citizens review.
Yes.
When
No,
it,
these
so,
are for the teachers.
so do we have a citizens review committee this
Yes,
time?
I think Justin mentioned that in his presentation at the retreat. So they're meeting Monday. That was a slide on that presentation. So that should have been part of that update that was given about retreat in general.
I don't remember.
And that's gonna be facilitated by Carl Benson Institute, just like we did with the map.
And will it be here?
Yes, from 12 to 4:30.
Okay.
Will it be virtual or
No,
just
it's in person. It's gonna be held at the same, in the 15th floor conference room,
What time?
from 12 to 4:30.
Right, aside from Mr. Royal, do I have any volunteers that would like to be involved in this transportation language?
Well, I think
Martha?
Martha,
All right,
yeah.
Martha, and I'd like to be part of that as well. So, let's have those discussions. Yesterday, I want to thank the Georgia Department of Education Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Russ Grome, for his presentation on SB 68. Thank you very much. It was very informative, and also make the announcement that the State Board of Education will be reconvening its audit committee. Stay tuned for additional details. Are there any other comments or questions, even among those that are online with us today?
One thing to mention is that Trey Allen, a former, the loss of his brother, I think was it Tuesday?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. So our condolences go out to Trey and his family. And also to remind our RESAs that on these rules that are being posted, if you could remind all the superintendents and people to please go online and take a look at them. We had a conversation about that yesterday, how we get this more out to our public so that they can do the public comments.
Terrific, terrific. All right, Andy?
I saw one thing, and I'll just leave it on a high note, is it just jumped out at me, and it was made more today with our Pathways to Prosperity, and about 10 years ago, we started that with a $50,000, I remember it plain as day, a $50,000 budget item on a grant to work with Harvard on the Pathways to Prosperity. And now, Barbara, we have how many kids in Pathways in the state of Georgia? Really? A whole bunch. A whole bunch. But that, I honestly believe, I honestly believe that's one of the main drivers of our graduation rate going up, is when they can see that and do that. But where I'm going with that is, I read something the other day about be somebody's miracle. And the speaker who talked about heroes, we've got so many heroes out there in classrooms every day. And Butch Mosley, there's no telling how many kids he was their miracle that he doesn't even know about because of things that were done and just happen and we do that we don't see the effect of. Barbara Hampton would say all the time, we're planting trees that we'll never sit under, but that's okay. And just, we're coming into the holidays. There's a lot of pain and suffering and evil out there. But be somebody's miracle, and I appreciate everybody in here in this board. And just let's go into that and reflect into that. But I know these pathways are miracles for kids because they're in their families, because they're giving them a purpose to be in school, and not a job, but a career that they can raise their family. So thanks to all of you.
We do have so much to be thankful about, and November is a national holiday with Thanksgiving. I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving if we don't see or speak with you before. Veterans Day coming up as well, and thank you for that reminder, Ms. Gilmore. And with that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Donaldson. Is there a second? Second from Stan to adjourn it. All those in favor say aye. We're adjourned.
Here, here, Michael. CTE makes miracles and heroes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kenneth.